There's a moment that decides every fight. Most people think it's the first punch, the knockdown, the final bell. They're wrong. The moment happens earlier, in silence, when no one's watching. When a fighter realizes something they can't say out loud. I might not survive this. For anyone who faced Mike Tyson, that moment came before they ever touched gloves. It came in a tunnel beneath the arena, in a stare that lasted 3 seconds but felt like forever, in the sudden awareness that their body was betraying them, hands sweating when they shouldn't, breathing wrong, thinking about things they trained themselves not to think about. By the time the bell rang, the fight was already over. Not by strength, not by skill, by something invisible. By fear that planted itself so deep they fought it instead of him. This is not a story about boxing. It's about the war that happens before the war. Mike Tyson didn't just beat people, he broke them, psychologically, before the first punch landed. His greatest weapon wasn't speed or power, it was certainty. The kind so absolute it infected everyone around him, especially the person standing across the ring. This is how he did it, how he turned silence into a weapon, how he made a stare feel like violence, how he convinced grown men they'd already lost before they began. Because Tyson understood one fundamental truth. The real fight never happens in the ring. It happens in the mind. And there, he was undefeated. It begins in the tunnel, beneath the arena, where the roar of the crowd becomes distant and muffled, where concrete walls absorb sound and amplify thought. Other fighters use these final moments to stay warm, shadowboxing, jumping, music pounding in their ears to drown out nerves. Tyson stood still, perfectly still. No robe, no entourage, no distraction. Just bare skin and shadow. That stillness was intentional. While he stood there in complete silence, his opponent was somewhere else in the building, trying to convince themselves they were ready. But they weren't thinking about their jab. Their footwork, their game plan. They were thinking about him, about what was waiting in that tunnel. Every fighter who faced Tyson described the same sensation, an awareness, a pressure building, like feeling a storm approach before seeing clouds. Then his name echoed through the arena. Mike Tyson! The crowd exploded, but in that distant locker room, everything went quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat, where your trainer's voice sounds far away, where time stretches, because everyone in that room was thinking the same thing. It's time. When Tyson emerged, he didn't burst through the tunnel with energy and bravado. He walked, slowly, deliberately, like something that doesn't need to rush because the outcome is already known. No entrance music, no performance, just forward motion. One fighter said it looked like watching gravity personified, said Tyson didn't walk to the ring, he arrived there, like he'd always been there, like reality bent around him. His body language communicated in a language older than words. Head slightly lowered, shoulders loose but coiled, eyes fixed on nothing and everything. No wasted movement, no doubt, no humanity, just purpose. and every step planted a seed in the crowd, in the commentators, in the fighter waiting in the ring, watching this approach, watching and feeling something shift inside their chest. By the time Tyson climbed through those ropes, the first crack had appeared, not in bone, in belief. But Tyson wasn't done. The walk was just preparation for what came next, the moment that separated him from every other fighter, the moment where he didn't just enter your space, he entered your mind. The referee calls both fighters to center, the final instructions, the last moment before violence becomes legal. Most fighters use these seconds to look focused. They nod along, bounce slightly, try to project readiness. Tyson did something else. He looked into his opponent, not at them, into them. His eyes were voids, black and bottomless, absorbing everything, reflecting nothing. He didn't blink, didn't shift his gaze, didn't acknowledge the referee's words. He just stared. And in that stare, something happened. His opponents saw themselves differently, saw doubt they'd been hiding, saw the question forming despite every attempt to suppress it. What if this is the one that breaks me? Some tried to match his intensity, stared back with equal conviction, but their bodies told different stories. A slight swallow, a jaw clenching too hard, weight shifting almost imperceptibly, microscopic surrenders. And Tyson saw every single one. He was trained to see them, to recognize the exact moment confidence became performance, when certainty revealed the fear underneath. Michael Spinks entered that ring undefeated, 41 wins, Olympic champion, undisputed. He'd faced killers, survived wars, never doubted himself in combat. But standing there, inches from Tyson, waiting for the bell, he felt something he'd never felt before. Not nervousness, not respect. Terror. Pure, primal terror. The kind that bypasses training and preparation and goes straight to the survival brain, the part that makes split-second decisions about life and death. And that part was screaming one word: run. But there's nowhere to run in a boxing ring. You can only stand there and wait for what you fear to become real. That's what Tyson's stare did. It made fear real before the fight even started. So how does someone become this? How do you transform a person into a psychological weapon that dismantles trained fighters without touching them? The answer isn't in Brooklyn, not in the streets where young Mike learned violence. It's in a gym in Catskill, New York, with an old man who understood the mind better than the body. Cus D'Amato saw Tyson differently than other trainers saw their fighters. He didn't see potential. He saw raw material, a mind he could shape, a belief system he could program. Because Cus understood something fundamental about fighting, that it happens in two arenas simultaneously, physical and mental. And whoever wins the mental battle doesn't need to win the physical one. Their opponent defeats themselves. Every night, Cus made Tyson close his eyes and visualize. See the ring. See your opponent across from you. Now watch yourself destroy them. Feel the impact. Hear the crowd. Smell the canvas. Make it vivid. Make it real. Repeat. Thousands of times, night after night, year after year, until Tyson's subconscious couldn't distinguish between what he'd imagined and what he'd lived. until victory wasn't a goal he hoped to achieve. It was a memory of something that hadn't happened yet. Cuss taught him about fear, that everyone feels it, that the champion and the coward experience identical physical sensations: heart racing, palms sweating, chest tightening. The difference isn't the feeling, it's the response. The coward runs from fear, tries to escape it. The champion channels it, uses it, lets it sharpen focus into something surgical and cold. Tyson learned to welcome that sensation, to crave it, to let it transform him into something more precise than he was in ordinary life. But the deepest programming was about belief. Cuss told him every day that he was special, not as encouragement, as observable fact. That he was built for this, designed for this, that losing wasn't just improbable, it was impossible. Not because he was better than everyone, but because he was inevitable, like gravity, like time. And when you hear something every day from someone you trust completely, during the years your identity is forming, it stops being belief, it becomes your reality. Tyson absorbed this into every cell. It changed how he moved through the world, how he occupied space, how he looked at people. He didn't hope he would win. He knew he would. The same way you know the sun will rise. And that certainty radiated from him like radiation, invisible but felt by everyone nearby, especially the people who had to stand across from him. Because when you face someone who genuinely, completely, absolutely believes they cannot lose, something in your own certainty fractures. You start to question, to doubt, to wonder. And once that process begins, it's almost impossible to stop.